So Gdańsk has been mentioned, and you have been invited to Euroskills, which will be held in September. So let us start with Gdańsk, because the first speaker, our key speaker, comes from Gdańsk. So I will give the floor to Łukasz Sienkiewicz, who will talk about his presentation is entitled "Why is it worth to invest in the development of digital competencies?" He is an expert of Europass and Euroguidance. Sir, the floor is yours. Thank you for having me. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to give an inaugural presentation of this forum, and I hope you will be satisfied with my presentation. When you look at the title, the question is rather rhetorical, because it is worth to invest in the development of digital competence, and I'm not going to convince you about it, but what I'm going to convince you about is to verify whether the level of investment into digital competences is sufficient. So whether the pace of modernization and change on the labor market, does it require more efforts and more investments in digital skills? So I'm not going to talk about the fact that digital skills are indispensable to operate within this society, and to make to do anything, just to pay taxes or to enroll your child to a preschool or use public services. In order to do these things, you need digital skills. So, and I'm going to focus on the labor market. I'm an expert of the European Commission for Employment, and I work for CDFOP, where we forecast future competences that will be needed in the labor market. And looking from this perspective, I'm going to present you some interesting insights, I hope. Let me start with the general statement. From the point of view of the future and the priorities of the European Commission concerning digital skills, these are very ambitious, because EU expects that 80% of adults will have at least basic digital skills, and this is a very ambitious goal, especially if you look at the current statistics. It is also expected that 20 million people will be ICT experts, because this is a big challenge from the point of view of education, and especially vocational education also changes in the way how companies operate. This is how they operate, because only small and medium enterprises, they need cloud technologies, artificial intelligence and big data, and this is a big challenge from practical and investment point of view. And last but not least, small and medium enterprises are required to hold at least minimum digital intensity, so they not only need to use email or be capable to present basic information about their services online, but also to use services that support the operations in the labor market. So the challenges are manifold, and it is sometimes difficult to forecast the depth and speed of changes This is why when we analyze the labor markets, we cannot tell so easily what is expected and what is needed in the future in the labor market, even talking in the short-term perspective. So any forecast, for example, CDFOP has made some forecasts concerning 2030 or 2035. These forecasts show growing requirements for digital skills, but we should be careful when we analyze this forecast, because the technological progress is that fast, and it causes such deep changes in the labor market. So, for example, basic manual works but require basic skills, they seem quite safe, but now this situation is changing. So, for example, now, so talking about these basic skills, one of cleaning companies, when they need their staff, they require digital skills as well, because all the orders and all the work is done online. I mean, the administration of the work, and the people, the cleaning staff, cannot operate such systems. Another thing where digital skill can be needed, let me mention a restaurant in Gdańsk, a beautiful city. So the owner wanted to introduce a new customer service kitchen, so the interface between kitchen and the waiting staff. However, the majority of our staff were above 50, so it was very difficult for them to move or shift from paper-based instructions to digital instructions. And the more you go into the vocational or occupational structure, the requirements are growing. It is also obvious that our economy is becoming more and more digital. Information is a strategic asset, and it is up to information and its use. So information and its use decide whether a Polish economy is competitive on the international market and whether it has a future in terms of employing young people with whom you work. This is why new business models appear, and they are usually associated. So when you talk about new business models, you think about, I don't know, a transportation company whose name starts with U, which also use digital platforms, but using the platforms is a trend that is very visible, not only in terms of physical or face-to-face services, but also online services such as programming or counseling, which also require relevant digital skills. So in order to be a taxi driver, it's not enough to have driving skills, but you also need basic digital skills. And the digitization of the economy is moving very fast and includes such areas as automated. So the automation in the production companies, where the operational model relating to Industry 4.0 is quite different when compared to the situation 10 years ago. So people who work on the production lines need to operate in digital environment. They need to cooperate with robots and need to have a quite different level of digital skills as compared to 10 years ago. So is it a threat for us as a country? Well, apparently Poland, as compared to other European countries, is open to automation and robotization, and why hasn't been intensive? Because of cost effectiveness. But we are very close to this turning point when investments in technology will be more profitable than employing workers because of the because of a growing working staff costs. Digital technology includes various different technologies, and you are well aware of it. But when you look at them, when you analyze them, they are looked at individually. And when you look at the opportunities and threats related to digital skills, is at the meeting point of these technologies, and it usually takes place in the workplace. And this is mainly related to the requirements of the labor market. So, let me give another example. I believe this is the most convincing. So, when you plan a work of a warehouse of a very famous company, whose name starts with A, you need to be able to use several technologies. So, our mobile device, your mobile device that you have with you, anywhere you go to in the warehouse, will show you the pace and the direction of your movement. It will trace your effectiveness thanks to using Internet of Things. It will also analyze the speed of work. It will also inform managers whether you are effective or not, and it will do it instantly in the real time. And it is not science fiction, let me emphasize. This is something that is a part of everyday work of people working across Europe and the world. Another thing is that interconnectivity. So we, as the staff, are monitored by our employers. So knowledge of basic technology, and advanced one as well, is an asset or even is indispensable. So I believe the GPT is on the mouth of everyone right now, and the use of it is also very interesting. And it is just one example of using artificial intelligence and technologies that we are not quite aware of, because we do not know how they can help us in our everyday work by eliminating mundane tasks, but it can also devoid us of job places, because you will be replaced by technology. And I believe that the discussion will be continued, but the basic understanding of artificial intelligence is indispensable also in the labor market. Companies invest heavily in various sectors, to mention the financial sector or IT, but also other organizations invest in digital technology as well. So this is the latest data of 2023 collected by KPMG. So these investments focus on mobile solutions, but also for decision-making, so computer-aided decision-making, computerization, automation, and the Internet of Things. So all the things I have mentioned before, and the level of investment is growing. Obviously, not in all sectors. It is not happening equally, and not all technologies are equally popular, but this is a consistent trend, and I do not believe that companies are going to give up technology. So it is fair to say that our future in the labor market is the digital one. Last but one more thing, which is important. These technological trends change, and apart from the technology that I have mentioned before, there are emerging technologies which are disruptive ones. So just like GPT chat, there was no discussion on it until its capabilities have been displayed by IT companies.
Well, it has taken 10 or more years to develop this service, which is obvious. Technological companies and the world of labor are actually preparing something which will significantly change the way we perform work. Currently, we now keep observing trends based on what we know. The data analytics or predictive analytics will be used more often, or machine learning. This is currently trendy, but of course we should probably expect that there will be more significant or more severe changes coming in the future. Looking at the report developed by the World Economic Forum, by 2025 we'll just observe the increases. This is not an absolute number of companies that are applying such solutions. What we can see is that the investment level, especially in respect of cyber safety, report a significant increase, 17%, and that is compared to other companies that are already using those solutions. So we can expect that the expectations for digital competencies of prospective employees will be increasing. When we look at trends on the labor market, we should mention several matters that we've been able to see already, especially in production companies. So that is interaction between people and systems, also cobot and chatbot work, but also functioning in the world, which is a mixed or hybrid world. So we need to combine digital skills with some essential skills, like including soft competencies of our employees. So it seems that the world, from the perspective of an average employee, but also an IT employee, will not only require specific digital competencies, but also will require a combination of competencies which are necessary in the physical world, combined with digital skills, and also combination of digital and physical worlds and our prediction require advanced digital skills, but also advanced analytical data analysis skills, and that's very transparent, and that's emphasized by numerous studies and reports. So, in a way, summarizing, we can say that transformation in the labor world will result in changing the way we perform work. But we need to take a broader perspective, from the perspective of changing the relationship between employers and employees, and that is emphasized because we often work on platforms. And when we look at the level of digital competencies currently and the needs for development of such skills, we need to realize that somebody needs to pay for such development, somebody needs to invest in such development. So, going back to my first slide, the level of investment, especially when we're dealing with employees working on an employment contract, should be covered by the employers. But when we look at the different working model and the different working mode in the digital world, we start facing a situation where we need to consider who and in what degree should pay for the investment in digital skills. Should it be the employee or other public institutions such as the European Commission Commission or the state budget, or to some extent the employers should also chip in if they use the skills of such employees. These matters are really crucial, especially when we look at the growing gap in digital competencies, which we refer to as the digital divide. So it seems that it's very important because on the one hand the expectations are increasing because we want our employees to have digital skills, but on the other hand we do not fully provide them with methods and tools to develop their competencies, especially due to the fact that the technologies keep evolving. So you cannot say that I just have digital skills and I don't need any more. These are still upgraded. Of course, as you know well, there were some attempts to identify or to define what digital competencies are. There is a European Union model, DIGCOM 2.2, which tackled this task. Of course, the definitions change in terms of scope, but when we refer to the basic areas of digital competencies, these remain the same from the very beginning the model was created. But we need to remember that the range of competencies is quite differentiated. These are not a simple association, for instance, ability to work on a specific software or ability to create digital content. It also covers safety or problem solving, including technical problem solving. So when we think about development of digital competencies, we should have a broad perspective which follows the models that already exist. We should not limit ourselves to just a selected section, because then the trainees will not be provided with sufficient tools to function in a digital environment, broadly understood digital environment. Because one thing is to be able to work on a specific software, but they need to have some skills to deal with the broken equipment, because help desk is not always available. If I'm alone with my mobile equipment somewhere in my workplace or in field, I need to be able to deal with also hardware challenges. So these competencies are quite wide-ranging, and when we discuss investments in digital skills, in digital competencies, we need to remember that this covers a broad spectrum of skills. Are these skills necessary, and what is the extent? It's demonstrated by a variety of studies. I recommend becoming familiar with a recently published European Skill and Job Survey. It was a second edition of a study, and it worked on a representative large sample of people in all European states, including Poland, and it was focused on digital competencies and the influence of digitalization on jobs. So this study shows, this study did not only focus on large corporations, but it shows a review of different companies in economy. So this applies to actually any employee on the labor market. So the outcome is 87% of EU employees use a computer or some other electronic device to perform their work. So the jobs that do not require any digital skills are very limited, and in the future, even if we're dealing with very simple manual work, these will be eliminated. Another thing is working in a network. It used to be that people worked on computers without internet access. Now, people need to be able to use content, and our educational system, and please apologize and please accept my apologies, those of you who work in the educational system. Our educational system focuses on teaching content rather than teaching youth how to access content or find content. So that is a skill that will be necessary in the future. And the area for development is a big number of companies that keep implementing new digital technologies, which requires learning to use such digital technologies. If a pan-European study shows that 30% of employees had to learn new technologies to perform their work, not to learn something new, but actually to keep performing their current work, it's a big percentage. It's a big share. So, looking at a Polish perspective, how do we present versus other countries? So there was a question asked, and it was: have you learned to use any new software in the last 12 months to perform your job? The response was not very satisfactory. We actually ranked somewhere at the bottom of the list among European states. So the response was around 34%. Okay, Germany's response was even lower. It's not that they don't learn any new technologies, but they have been trained in those technologies before, or perhaps they get their competencies elsewhere. So the learning percentage is quite insignificant, but actually companies still invest in the process. There was another question: has at least one education or training activity been undertaken in your company? In Poland, the response was 43%. The positive response was given by 43%. So it's again an average level. So it seems that companies just are now starting to understand the meaning, the significance of acquiring digital competencies, which does not seem sufficient at this time. It seems that the educational institutions' role, but also labor institutions' role in the scope of developing digital competencies will stay significant. So the costs may not be shifted on just the employers, but I believe the employers will not be willing to take on all the costs. So we are facing significant challenges in this area, especially when we look at digital competencies in Poland. And let me now refer to Digital Economy and Society Index study, which is performed every year in all European states by the European Commission, and 4 areas are investigated: human capital, connectivity, digital inclusion, and digital public services. And let me focus on human capital, because this refers to the use of digital competencies by employees. As you can see, we're presenting the main index, and we are below the European average, 37 versus 45.7 points, which is the European average. So what does it mean? It means that we are low in the rank. We rank 24th out of the whole group of states, and it also means that our human capital skills are quite low. Our digital skills are low. Both the basic skills, which you can see on the slide, we have some detailed breakdown on this slide with reference to the human capital resources. So digital competencies, it's 43 versus 54 for European Union. above average digital skills, it's again much lower, and basic skills in terms of creating digital content, it's also lower. ICT specialists employed is also lower, and women specialists, there is a huge gap. Also twice as high is the result for the EU. So in all the areas, whether we discuss basic digital skills or more advanced digital skills, or when we discuss functioning in the labor market, we are still quite far behind the others, and there is still a lot of room for improvement. And I believe this is a role of not just educational institutions, but let's say it bravely, and let's be courageous about it. These digital skills in our society, but also among employees, need to be improved, and we need to secure adequate funding for that purpose. So it seems that such investment is just indispensable. So I would like to sum up my short session by saying that digital skills and development of digital skills on the labor market carries many challenges. And so I would like to motivate you, and rather than actually put pressure and leave you depressed, because I'm convinced that when we understand what the challenge consists in, when we understand the problem, we are able to set a direction for strategic action to secure development, and we'll be able to take coordinated action and use different resources, but also start a bottom-up initiative, because I believe not everything can be done by governmental action and by central strategies. We can focus on the level of schools or actual jobs, and we have a significant role to play. So summing up, I'd like to say that it seems that digital competencies are absolutely ever-present in any sector and in any job. I believe there is no labor sector now, and in the future this will be even more so, which will not require digital competencies. So that's important to remember when we create educational programs. And we cannot acquire digital competencies once and for all, because the level and the scale of changes in the world of technologies is very dynamic. The changes are dynamic. And if the technology changes dynamically, also the expectations of employers seem to change. And that will require your own investments, public investments, but also this will require continuous updating of digital competencies. I believe all of us gathered here in this room believe we have quite a good level of digital competencies. Maybe we are not IT specialists, but we can handle technologies. But sometimes a completely new technology may enter the picture, a completely destructive technology, and then we'll have to learn something else, anew. It's only intuition-based for the new generation. The new generation actually absorbs new technology naturally. We have to learn new skills, remember that. Future is not certain, and it's difficult to say what will be necessary. We can make some forecasts, but we actually forecast based on trends and historical data, and we also observe the development of new technologies, but we have no crystal ball to be able to say what will be necessary in the future. I am convinced that the level of investment, especially of smaller enterprises, is still insufficient. So these companies should not just search for specialists on the market, but they should also take the effort and invest in training people, because usually the market requires that, because companies are not able to find staff with sufficient digital competencies. And that's where I'd like to stop. Thank you for your attention. I hope your expectations were fulfilled. I hope it wasn't boring. Thank you. Well, my technological skills are limited to turning the mic on and off. Thank you, Dr. Łukasz Sienkiewicz of Gdańsk Technical University. You mentioned that you do not want to depress the audience, so let's grab a coffee. I invite you to take advantage of the coffee break, and we'll meet for the second session at 11, and we'll go through the gala of the competition, Your Euroguidance Passion in Practice. Well, we are in Warsaw, and some of you are watching us online, and to respect our online viewers, I would like to ask the participants to come back at 11 in time. Thank you.